Hello, Dan Matichek here, and back with some more of my observations of a beginner. And look at my notes. Oh, one of the things I've learned, I've worked with clay before. I've done sculpting. First time on the wheel. The wheel will teach you things that no matter how much you've worked with clay, it'll teach you more, and it's amazing. I'm just totally amazed by that and intrigued, and I want more of it. The whole thing is a learning process, and I haven't even fired any of this clay in my kiln or messed with glazes yet, so I can only imagine how much I'm going to be learning. But I keep going off track because I'm a little bit excited about what I'm learning here. Oh, it's about pressure with clay. What I've learned with there's extremes of pressure. There are times when you have to really manhandle that clay and force that clay, and there are times when you have to be very slow and gentle and deliberate. And switching gears when you're working on the wheel it has to be done in a second. And and that's not even counting things like wheel speed or how fast you're moving your hands. That's just the touch of the clay and manipulating the clay the way you want it. Centering is an example. You start off with that clay, and you have to apply some pressure. And then the other thing that that I'd never caught before is one of the first signs that I notice that I don't have enough water on my clay is that my wheel's slowing down. I'm using a leach-style treadle wheel, and it's very sensitive to speed control in both ways, whether it's accelerating or decelerating, or it's change in the wheel from your hands. It's like you could tell right away if you're looking for it. And I can tell before my hands even start to drag, I can tell that wheel is slowing down, and I know to reach for water. And I'm using a sponge now for water instead of just dripping it on. I think for a beginner it might be a little easier to do it that way. And the other thing that I learned about pressure with clay, once you form your clay and you're putting handles on is a good example. That clay, when it is in the soft state, again extremes, when it is still wet and soft, it's going to be, you can't touch it. Don't brush against it with your tools. I had more time like fixing little mistakes because I brushed against it with something when I'm setting it down or moving it, than you can imagine. I kept doing it, and it just dawned on me, it's soft. It's very delicate. You think that it takes, first I'm using all this pressure and there's, the strength required. The next thing you notice is that there's the opposite end of it. That it takes, it's soft and it's very delicate, easy to maneuver and to maneuver it in the wrong direction as well. So that was a good lesson that I learned that I did not expect. Another thing about clay and extremes. Clay that is too dry or too wet, they're both very, very bad for different reasons. And if it's very dry, you can't. There are things you can't do, and if the clay is dry, there are things that you can do and need it to be dry to do them. And noticing and observing the moisture of your clay is very important. I found that out right away. My first time with my first clay was dry as a rock, and I'm trying to knead it, and I'm like, you just can't do it. So that I learned. I'm also learning what to do with leftovers as I go. You can't just you think, well, I messed this pot up, I'm just going to take this clay and I'm going to just try to get the excess water off, and I'm going to ball it back up and set it aside. In 10 minutes I'm going to throw it back on. You're wasting your time. You're wasting your time. That clay needs to be reprocessed. If you have scraps, you have to do one of two things as your scraps. I'm talking about slurry that comes off, the slip that comes off your wheel or whatever. You have to either put it into your pitcher. I just scrape mine into my pitcher if it's small pieces. If it's large pieces, I put it aside, and I have a little container that I put it into to let it dry out. And then I have, again, a lot of buckets you're going to need. And I have the buckets that I, like rotate your water. You're going to have to rotate your water. Next day, this water will be clear on top, about halfway down or so. And I'm going to spill that into a holding bucket. I'm going to use that for my hands again. Stuff on the bottom is valuable. Don't think that's waste. That's valuable. You're going to want to put that in another bucket and let it settle in that bucket. Down the road, I'm probably going to use, both of these for slip for decorating, because I have two different colors on clay that has a similar body. It's different color, same shrink rate, and requires the same cone temperature. So I'm going to use it for decorating. I'm going to use it for slip for decorating the two different colors of the pieces I'm making, so that they're different, but they have the same style, but different colors are going to be reversed. So you're going to want to save that. Those pieces that you have, Simon Leach says, let them dry out all the way. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, but you know what? If you put them in water, no. Let them dry out. Reclaim them later. Reclaiming is something you have to get into. I need to pour plaster. I'm finding things as I go that I heard people say. They're true. Find someone good, start watching them. There are 3 or 4 that I watch religiously, and listen to what they're saying and try to understand it. Take a lot of notes, and along the way, take a lot of notes. That's all I've been doing, because you're going to need to keep reinforcing this stuff in your head, because it's a learning experience. It's amazing how much you're going to be learning. So that's it for now. See ya.